The charity gala at the Kennedy Center grew completely still when Samuel L. Jackson rose from his front row seat, microphone in hand, cutting into Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's speech about youth education reform. "With all due respect, Congresswoman," his unmistakable voice thundered through the room, "I've listened to politicians talk for decades. It's always the same polished speeches without any real substance." The crowd froze as the legendary actor, famous for his commanding performances and unforgettable one-liners, pointed straight toward Crockett. "I bet you can't go off script. Let's settle it, right here, right now." A quote battle. "Your words against mine, unless you're afraid to speak without a script." Gasps rippled through the audience. Celebrity clashes with politicians were nothing new, but rarely this raw, rarely this public. Crockett, dressed in a bold blue suit, paused only for a moment before offering a calm, confident smile, a reaction no one expected. What followed would become one of the most viral moments of the year. Before we dive into this unforgettable showdown between Hollywood royalty and one of Washington's fastest-rising political figures, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more behind-the-scenes political moments the mainstream media never shows. Samuel L. Jackson wasn't just another star criticizing politicians. With over 150 blockbuster films to his name, he's one of Hollywood's most successful actors. His roles from Jules Winfield to Nick Fury are cultural milestones. At 75, Jackson had become more outspoken about politics, especially education and voting rights. Using his massive platform to call out hypocrisy and inaction, he attended the Kennedy Center's America's Future, Investing in Education gala as an honored guest. The event united celebrities, business leaders, and lawmakers to raise funds for underprivileged schools. Though always passionate about education, Jackson had grown tired of hearing lofty promises without progress. Earlier that day, he posted on social media, "Tired of the same speeches. Kids need change, not more talking points." Friends had noticed his growing frustration. Fellow actor Morgan Freeman remarked just last week, "Sam's done with polite talk. He wants results and he's not afraid to shake things up." That raw honesty had earned Jackson a devoted following among young people who admired his authenticity, though it also unsettled some Hollywood peers who preferred a safer approach. Facing him on stage was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas's 30th District. At 42, Crockett had quickly become one of Capitol Hill's sharpest minds, a former civil rights lawyer known for her quick wit, strong presence, and ability to dismantle weak arguments with precision. Her viral congressional moments had earned her the nickname the Counselor. Crockett's path hadn't been easy. Raised in a working-class family in St. Louis, she worked her way through school before building a successful law career in Texas. Her decision to run for office came from frustration with fighting the same legal battles she believed legislation could fix. Her campaign centered on education reform, making this night especially meaningful. Unlike many politicians, Crockett rarely used prepared notes. Her command of policy details, legal precedents, and cultural references made her both engaging and relatable, especially to younger voters who saw her as genuine. But the stakes that night were far higher than a debate. The Kennedy Center Gala was live-streamed to thousands, including tech executives and philanthropic leaders who controlled billions in education funding. Reporters from every major outlet were watching closely, knowing this exchange would dominate tomorrow's headlines. For Jackson, this was a chance to expose what he saw as the emptiness of political talk. For Crockett, it was a test of composure and intellect in front of the most powerful audience of her career. A single misstep could damage her reputation and her education initiatives. As Jackson gripped the microphone and Crockett steadied herself at the podium, the room held its breath. This wasn't just another celebrity versus politician moment. It was a showdown between two powerful communicators, each with everything to lose and something to prove. "A quote battle, Mr. Jackson?" Crockett said evenly, adjusting her mic. "I'm here to talk about real policies that change children's lives, not perform for cameras." Jackson smirked, tugging his tailored suit jacket and stepping forward, unwilling to back down. "That's exactly my point, Congresswoman," Samuel L. Jackson said, his voice echoing through the grand hall. Real life isn't a movie, but politicians act like it is, all rehearsed lines and no real action. I've heard your speeches before. Lots of talk about change, but where's the proof? The audience stirred uncomfortably. The event's organizer, Dr. Eleanor Phillips, began to move toward the stage, ready to calm the situation. But something in Jasmine Crockett's steady composure stopped her. Results take more than good intentions. Mr. Jackson, Crockett replied firmly, they require understanding complex systems and working with people who don't always agree, and that can't be wrapped up neatly in a 2-hour movie. Jackson let out a dry laugh, though there was little amusement in it. See? There it is again, polished words and practiced answers. I've been funding education programs for 3 decades. I've put in my time and my money. I've seen firsthand how the system keeps failing kids like the ones from my own neighborhood. So don't tell me I don't understand how it works. The tension was thick. Some celebrities shifted awkwardly, glancing at their phones. Others leaned forward, glued to the unscripted clash between Hollywood and Washington. Crockett stepped away from the podium, closing the distance between her and Jackson. I respect your passion, Mr. Jackson, she said evenly. And you're right, we do need more action. But challenging me to a quote battle doesn't help the children we're here to support tonight. Then teach me something real, Jackson pressed, his tone sharper now. Because from where I stand, I keep hearing the same promises while graduation rates in poor communities barely move. Give me something real, not something your staff wrote for applause. A low murmur swept through the crowd. Jackson had voiced what many silently thought, that too many political speeches sound good but achieve little. Some major donors even nodded in agreement. Crockett's eyes hardened with resolve. You want real? Fine, let's talk real. She gestured toward her aide, who quickly brought over a thick binder. Jackson's eyebrows rose in surprise. What's this? More notes? He asked, half smirking. These, Crockett said, opening the binder, are the actual results from my education pilot program in my district, not projections, not promises. Real numbers. Reading scores up 22%, math scores up 18%, teacher retention up by 1/3. Are those the kind of results you're asking for? Jackson looked momentarily caught off guard but quickly recovered. Numbers on paper don't tell the whole story. Politicians love stats, but what about the people? Have you even been inside those classrooms? Every Friday when Congress isn't in session, Crockett fired back without missing a beat. At 9, I read to first graders at Harmony Elementary. At noon, I mentored debate students at Roosevelt High. By 3, I'm at the community center helping with math homework. Would you like to call them in check? Applause broke out from parts of the audience, hesitant but genuine, before falling silent again as Jackson stepped closer. Talk is cheap, he challenged. You claim to care? Then prove it. No speeches, no data sheets. Let's hear what you really think, unfiltered and off-script. A real conversation, not political theater. Crockett calmly placed the binder on the podium and stood tall. And what exactly do you have in mind, Mr. Jackson? Jackson smiled, sensing a challenge he couldn't resist. A quote battle, 60 seconds each. No notes, no prep. Just raw honesty about education in America. You've got your facts, but can you speak from the heart without your staff feeding you lines? Dr. Phillips hesitated, stepping forward. Perhaps we should return to the scheduled program, she began cautiously. No, Crockett interrupted, holding up a hand. I accept. A wave of whispers rippled through the hall. Even Jackson looked slightly surprised that she agreed. This wasn't part of the plan. Dr. Phillips murmured. Sometimes the best moments aren't, Crockett replied. If Mr. Jackson wants authenticity, I'm happy to deliver. Maybe it'll shine more light on the cause we're all supporting tonight. Recognizing the potential viral moment, the event's media director motioned for the video crew to roll. The live stream numbers spiked instantly as news of the confrontation spread online. All right then, Jackson said with a confident grin. No interruptions. I'll start, then you follow. Let's see what you've really got, Congresswoman. The hall went silent as Samuel L. Jackson took center stage. Microphone in hand, the spotlight cutting through the tension, the legendary actor, famous for his commanding stage presence, took a deep breath, preparing for the kind of heartfelt delivery that had shaped his entire career. What the audience didn't realize was that this very moment was about to highlight Congresswoman Crockett's greatest talent, her ability to think quickly and stay calm under pressure. Before entering politics, she had built a flawless reputation as a trial attorney who never lost a case, mastering the art of responding to surprises with confidence. Jackson thought he was putting her on the spot, but in truth, he had just challenged one of Washington's sharpest and most agile communicators in her strongest arena. As Jackson began his speech, Crockett's expression remained calm. Yet those who knew her best noticed a small shift in her posture, the same signal she used in court right before delivering a precise and powerful argument. Stepping into the spotlight, SamuelLJackson stood tall, the light outlining his unmistakable authority. He gazed directly into the camera, aware of the weight and theatrical energy of the moment. "I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, during segregation," he began, his deep voice steady and deliberate. "Education for us wasn't just about books, it was about survival. My teachers didn't just teach us how to read and write. They taught us how to survive in a world that wasn't built for us." He paused, scanning the audience. "And when I visit schools today, I still see kids fighting those same battles. Different time, same struggle." Pacing across the stage with passion, Jackson's every word carried intensity. "Education isn't just about test scores or statistics," he continued. "It's about giving children real opportunities. It's about teachers who stay even when the system gives up on them, and about communities stepping in when government fails. I'm tired of hearing polished speeches in fancy rooms while kids can't even read in underfunded schools. We don't need more committees or studies. We need real action, real results, and above all, honesty, even when that honesty makes powerful people uncomfortable." As his minute came to a close, Jackson turned toward Crockett and pointed. "So yes, Congresswoman, I'm challenging you. Because our kids don't have time to wait for another 5-year plan or bipartisan photo op. They need help now, not more speeches designed to make us feel good while nothing changes." When his time ended, Jackson handed over the microphone with a confident nod. The crowd responded with strong applause. His message had clearly struck a chord. When the noise settled, all eyes turned to Congresswoman Crockett. She stepped forward slowly, taking the microphone. Instead of rushing to respond, she looked around the room, making direct eye contact with the audience until the silence grew heavy with expectation. "Mr. Jackson speaks with passion, and I respect that," she said softly, her tone calm but firm. "Passion is powerful, but passion without understanding is just noise." Turning toward Jackson, she continued, "You spoke about growing up in Chattanooga. I grew up in St. Louis, watching my mother work 2 jobs so I could have the chances she never did. Before Congress, I spent 15 years as a civil rights attorney defending children who were failed by the same system we're talking about tonight. I didn't visit classrooms for cameras. I fought for those students when no one was watching." Her voice grew stronger as she walked the stage. "You want action? I agree. That's why I authored and passed the Educational Resources Equity Act, which brought billions to the nation's most underfunded schools. That's why I launched a teacher retention program that's kept thousands of educators in struggling communities through loan relief. And that's why I personally mentor students -37 of whom are now the first in their families to go to college." She paused, then faced Jackson directly. "You talk about honesty, Mr. Jackson, so here's some truth. When celebrities drop into serious discussions demanding authenticity but ignore the complexity of the issues, it doesn't help, it hurts. Education reform isn't solved by sound bites or emotional speeches. It's achieved through patient, detailed work that rarely makes headlines by people who show up every day, even when there's no spotlight." Crockett turned toward the audience, her voice clear and steady. "You know what honesty really looks like?" she asked. "It's being willing to admit that real change doesn't happen overnight. It's accepting that there are no perfect solutions and that meaningful progress requires patience, collaboration, and compromise. It means doing the hard political work that rarely makes headlines but actually improves lives. As her time began to run out, Crockett looked directly at Jackson. "You challenged me to a quote battle because you assumed I'd fall apart without a script," she said. "But what you don't realize is that I live these issues every single day. I don't need preparation to talk about the work that defines my life. So, while I appreciate your passion, Mr. Jackson, maybe next time, before questioning someone's authenticity, take a moment to learn who they are and what they've accomplished." She handed the microphone back, and the audience instantly erupted. The applause was thunderous, echoing through the hall as many stood to their feet. The reaction wasn't just supportive, it was filled with stunned admiration. Even several celebrities known to be close friends of Jackson rose. Visibly impressed by Crockett's calm yet commanding response, Jackson stood silent for a few moments, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, a small smile crossed his face, and he nodded, a subtle but genuine acknowledgement from one professional recognizing another. Dr. Eleanor Phillips, the event organizer, quickly returned to the stage, clearly trying to steer the evening back on track while preserving its powerful momentum. "Well," she said with a smile, "I think we can all agree that was as authentic as it gets. Thank you both for such a passionate and unexpected exchange. This is exactly the kind of open conversation about education we hope to see tonight." The audience laughed softly, the tension giving way to applause and excitement. But the impact of what had just happened didn't stay in that room, it spread online within minutes. The live stream's chat exploded with reactions, and hashtags like #CrockettJackson and #EducationDebate started trending globally. Clips of the exchange flooded social media, shared by journalists, influencers, and political commentators. What started as Jackson's attempt to put a politician on the spot had transformed into a career-defining moment for Congresswoman Crockett. In just 30 seconds, she demonstrated why she was regarded as one of the most articulate and composed communicators in modern politics. As the two left the stage, Jackson approached Crockett and extended his hand. The microphones didn't catch their words, but several guests later said he smiled and told her quietly, "Tough crowd, Congresswoman. Looks like I chose the wrong opponent tonight." By midnight, the Crockett-Jackson exchange had gone fully viral. Within hours, the video amassed over 12 million views across different platforms. Morning shows began booking experts to discuss what many were calling the, quote, battle heard around the world. CNN's headline captured the moment perfectly. "Hollywood icon challenges Congresswoman, gets masterclass in political authenticity." Even media outlets that usually criticized Crockett found themselves praising her sharp, composed performance. One conservative commentator wrote, "You can disagree with her politics, but after last night, there's no denying Jasmine Crockett's ability to stay cool and speak with clarity under fire." The line that spread fastest online was her jab about Hollywood celebrities parachuting into political debates. That clip became an overnight meme sensation, appearing in countless edits, reaction videos, and shorts. Political analysts broke down her response, pointing out how she managed to turn a confrontation into a commanding display of confidence. Without sounding rehearsed or defensive, for Crockett, the results were immediate and powerful. Her office was flooded with interview requests, and major education organizations that had previously been undecided about supporting her programs reached out. Within 48 hours, her district's education initiative had received over $10 million in new funding commitments. Her social media following skyrocketed, gaining more than 500,000 new followers overnight. Many of them admitted they had never paid attention to her before but were inspired by her authenticity and composure. The hashtag Crockett Classroom began trending as students nationwide shared stories about their own educational struggles and victories. Even in Congress, the reaction was remarkable. Lawmakers from both parties reached out privately to offer respect. One of her usual critics, Congressman Michael Reynolds, tweeted, "We may disagree on policy, but Jasmine Crockett's ability to communicate with clarity and conviction under pressure is something every public servant can learn from." For Samuel L. Jackson, the aftermath was mixed at first. Some accused him of being too aggressive, and the hashtag Samuel lost his cool briefly trended. But that narrative quickly shifted. The following morning, Jackson posted on social media, "Last night I challenged Jasmine Crockett to prove her authenticity. She didn't just prove it, she gave me a lesson in the difference between passion and informed leadership. Respect where it's due." The post went viral for all the right reasons, earning him widespread praise for humility and maturity. Instead of damaging his reputation, Jackson's gracious response strengthened it, showing that he was genuinely invested in education reform rather than ego. 3 days later, both Crockett and Jackson appeared together on a major talk show. What could have remained a tense confrontation turned into a productive and inspiring conversation about education reform, equity, and collaboration. Their joint appearance broke viewership records and raised an additional $5 million for the education charity linked to the original gala.